Hello, welcome to HITC Sport. Alright, with Gareth Bale returning to Tottenham, let's see how well players do when they actually return to their former club for a second spell. I'm going to take a look at every Premier League club, find who the last player was to re-sign for them, and grade how their second spell went compared to the first. Right, let's go. Arsenal, Matthew Flamini. Before 7 out of 10, after 6 out of 10. Okay, let's be honest, when Matthew Flamini signed for Arsenal 6 weeks after that invincible title win back in 2004, you could see that his mere presence at the club coincided with a rapid downfall. But let's be honest, he played over 150 times as a defensive midfielder before walking out the door on a free AC Milan in May 2008. He wasn't really anything special, a bit of a French Ander Herrera, a steady foil beside Cesc Fabregas in midfield, but he was decent. When he returned on a free in August 2013, becoming the club's second signing for the summer after Yaya Sanogo, Arsenal fans probably felt like steam grilling their face. Just spend some money. But despite the knee injuries in Italy, despite his career lying face down in a ditch, he was actually decent in the second spell as well. He played a further 93 games in 3 seasons, scored 5 goals, including 2 in a League Cup tie against Tottenham. For that alone, the man was a good signing. As to Villa, James Milner, before 5 out of 10, after 9 out of 10. Ah yes, when Kevin Keegan watched the Newcastle board sell James Milner for £12 million in August 2008, with the club allegedly promising to get him Bastian Schweinsteiger instead. Christ, I think he believed them. Aston Villa fans at the time probably wouldn't have been jumping around the house at this signing. They'd already had Milner on loan 3 years earlier, and he was pretty average. He only scored 1 league goal in nearly 30 goddamn matches. He spent the season stuffed on the wing, showed all the end product of a broken fridge, as Villa finished 16th in the league. But his second spell, good Christ. Firstly, he moved in the central midfield, pulled the strings for a Villa team which finished 6th twice in a row, played over 120 games, scored over 20 goals, including in a Carling Cup final, forced his way into England's World Cup squad before being sold for a profit of £14 million. Not bad. Brighton, Glenn Murray, before 7 out of 10, after 9 out of 10. Okay, yes, Glenn Murray ripped it up for Brighton in his first spell. Between the years of 2007 and 2011, he scored 57 goals, 136 games, but I must stress, this was all in League One. When he returned in 2016, he just flopped in the top flight for Crystal Palace and Bournemouth. Brighton, who are now a championship team, could have been sceptical about bringing him back, but then he scores 23 goals in his first season to get them promoted, then 14 in their first Premier League season to keep them up, and then a further 15 the following season. Doré is currently a washed up pot of tubby custard chucked back into the championship alone with Watford. But what a re-signing he was for Brighton. Burnley, Jay Rodriguez, before 8 out of 10, after 7 out of 10. Okay, let's be honest, Burnley fans were probably sick in their mouths to watch Jay Rodriguez go. Having come through the academy, in his last 2 seasons at Turf Moor, he was absolutely on fire in the championship. During the 10-11 season, he batted home 14 championship goals. The following season he was 15, before tying up a move to Southampton, where he became an England international who nearly got a big money move to Spurs. Bringing it back to Turf Moor 7 years later, it was a bit of a risk, considering he hadn't hit more than 7 league goals in a Premier League season since 2014. Most people assumed his knees were now made up of mashed potato, but considering he popped up with 8 league goals last season, 11 in all competitions, including a screamer at Old Trafford, it's better than most expected. Chelsea, David Luiz, before 7 out of 10, after 7 out of 10. Lads, was there much of a difference between David Luiz's spells at Stamford Bridge? In his first 3-year spell, he played 143 games, scored 12 goals from centre back, lived to the FA Cup, Champions League and Europa League, good on the ball, could smack home a free kick, but was often prone to defending like a hyperactive squirrel. Then, when he returned from PSG in 2016, sure, initially he was incredible under Antonio Conte, barely putting a foot wrong all season, rebuilding his career with a Premier League title, looking brilliant in the back 3, before losing his place, stumbling about the park like a panda in heat, and getting binned off to Arsenal by his former teammate Crystal Palace Andy Johnson, before 9 out of 10, after 1 out of 10. Okay, Andy Johnson's first spell at Crystal Palace, he was an utter goal machine. Brought in from Birmingham's bench to replace Clinton Morris in 2002, he went on to smash 85 goals in 160 games for the club. That included promotion to the Premier League and 21 Premier League goals in 1 season. How on earth did they ever get relegated after that? At Sellers Park, he became an England international, earned himself a move to Everton, just great. His return though, in 2014, he was a used up broken shell of a player who looked like he stunk of rotten cheese. He made just 1 appearance in the League Cup, and this was a season where Palace were giving games with Yaya Sanogo, Fraser Campbell, Marouane Chamakh and Sean Amiobi up front. Clearly they were desperate. Dwight Gale played nearly 30 times, so how bad must AJ have been not to get a look in? Everton, Wayne Rooney, before 8 out of 10, after 7 out of 10. Okay, let's be honest, Wayne Rooney's first spell at Everton wasn't actually all that great. He was a raw teenager who had his moments, but he was still only scoring 9 goals in a season and finishing 17th in the league. Clearly he needed that big money move. His return 13 years later, most assumed he'd be a big fat waste of wages. To be fair though, in what was a wretched season which saw a European embarrassment, Ronald Koeman sacked and half a year playing under Big Sam, he was still one of the few players to come out with his credibility still intact. He smashed home 11 goals in 31 games, including a hat-trick against West Ham, yet again embarrassed Joe Hart with a lob from the halfway line. It was a brief return and yes, a nightmare season for the club, but Rooney actually did alright. Fulham, Chris Baird before 7 out of 10, after 3 out of 10. Okay, Chris Baird's return to Fulham in 2016 was a virtual non-event. In his first spell, the Northern Ireland defender was signed by Laurie Sanchez in 2007. He formed part of a backline which pulled off the great escape under Roy Hodgson, then qualified for Europe, and then reached a Europa League final. Over 160 games for the club, what a signing! He returned to Craven Cottage on loan from Derby in 2016, and played just 7 games. The club finished 20th in the Championship, nothing to boast about, lads. Leeds, Andy Lonergan before 4 out of 10, after 2 out of 10. Yeah, again, this was another non-event. Andy Lonergan, just some third choice goalie, arrived at Leeds in 2011 from Preston, and he was briefly the first choice keeper at Ellen Road, playing 35 times that season before being replaced by Paddy Kenny. His second spell was in 2017, where he played just 7 times. Not particularly good. Leicester, Paul Dickoff before 8 out of 10, after 2 out of 10. Yeah, this was a return which probably should have never happened. Paul Dickoff's first spell at Leicester, it was pretty good. Well, on a personal level that is. I mean, he was relegated 2 of the 3 years he was there, but hey, he scored 17 goals in the Championship to get them promoted back up at the first attempt in 2003, and then scored a further 11 in the top flight. Not bad for a team who were getting spanked on a weekly basis. His second spell though, he came back in 2008 to a club in crisis. He scored just 2 goals all season in League One before being dumped at Derby County's doorstep. Just all kinds of terrible. Liverpool, Craig Bellamy before 7 out of 10, after 7 out of 10. Okay, this looked like a bizarre return. Craig Bellamy first arrived at Liverpool in 2006 and did alright, I guess. He only had 1 season at Anfield, scored just 6 league goals, but did grab 1 in a famous win at the Nou Camp. But even then, that same week, he just clobbered his left back with a bastard golf club. He didn't even get given a minute on the pitch in the Champions League final, in a game where Jermaine Pennant started the match, before Rafa Benitez binned him off to West Ham in favour of a fancier upgrade from Spain. Nobody saw a return on the cards 4 years later, especially as he just spent a season on loan in the Championship with Cardiff. But to be fair, his second spell was arguably a bit better. Again, he scored 9 goals in all competitions, but he managed it in 8 less games. He absolutely ripped Chelsea apart in that famous League Cup semi-final win at Stamford Bridge. He won a Carling Cup against his boyhood club, and then reached an FA Cup final that same year. Under Kenny Dalglish, yeah, he was a decent squad option. Man City, Angelino before, not applicable, after 4 out of 10. Okay, how on earth do I give Angelino's first spell a rating? He barely played a bastard match for Man City, instead of just being chucked out on loan a bunch of times before being sold to PSV. City did exercise that buyback clause in 2019, and again, he only played 6 league games. He didn't really impress before being booted out to RB Leipzig. Pep Guardiola probably should have just left him in Holland. Man United, Paul Pogba before 3 out of 10, after 8 out of 10. Okay, let's be honest, Paul Pogba was always seen as an utter beast in the Man United youth teams. Never got himself a sniff in the first team under Sir Alex Ferguson. He played just 3 league games before storming off to cut his teeth at Juventus. Bit embarrassing, the club then had to pay a world record 90 million quid to bring back a fella they let go for free. Anyway, since 2016, no, he hasn't lived up to his fee. Yes, he's wasted valuable time falling out with Jose Mourinho, and he'll be annoyed not to have even blinked in the direction of a meaningful title race, but he's still been a good player. Let's not forget, during the 18-19 season, he did score 16 times. Paul Scholes, one of the greatest midfielders of all time, he only bettered that tally in a season once. Newcastle, Andy Carroll before 9 out of 10, after 5 out of 10. Okay, 2010 was without a shadow of a doubt the best year of Andy Carroll's career. That's when it all peaked. The guy who was supposed to be the heir to Alan Shearer, he was the original Harry Kane, England's next great hope. After smashing home 17 championship goals to get Newcastle promoted, he then helped himself to a further 11 in the top flight, including a hat-trick against Aston Villa, goals against Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea and Man City. This guy was a big game player, earning himself a £35 million move to Liverpool. Then he returns to Newcastle 8 years later on a freebie from West Ham's treatment table. He's been a handful when he's played, but 22 league games without a goal to show for it, it's not great. Sheffield United, Aaron Ramsdale before non-applicable, after non-applicable. Okay, it's weird for a guy who came through the Sheffield United youth system, for a guy the club paid nearly £20 million to re-sign in the summer, that he's only ever played for the Blades once, and that was last week when he conceded 2 goals after 6 minutes of his debut. So how am I supposed to judge him after that? Southampton, Richard Chaplow before 3 out of 10, after 6 out of 10. Okay, Richard Chaplow didn't really do much for Southampton in either spell. This English midfielder did spend the 05-06 season on loan from West Brom at Southampton, as they failed to get promotion from the Championship. 11 games, 1 goal, he didn't exactly set the place alight. He returned on a permanent basis 4 years later, and to be fair, did play over 30 games as they reached promotion from League One, and then another 25 games as they got promoted to the Premier League. So I suppose the second spell was pretty damn good after all. Tottenham, Peter Crouch before non-applicable, after 8 out of 10. Yeah, remember when Harry Redknapp brought about 4 Tottenham old boys back to the club, getting the band back together? Peter Crouch was the last one, a £10 million signing from Portsmouth in July 2009. To be fair, his first spell back in 99-2000, it was non-existent. He never played a game, was loaned out to Dulwich Hamlet and IFK Hasselholm before being sold to QPR. His second spell though, he scored that famous goal at the Etihad which secured top 4, netted a hat-trick against young boys in the qualifying round, netted in famous wins against both Inter and AC Milan. In Europe, Crouch is another Spurs legend. West Brom, Gareth Barry before 6 out of 10, after 3 out of 10. Well, if Saido Berahino had his way, he'd feature in this list. West Brom fans would sooner rip out their own teeth. Let's go for Gareth Barry, who was originally released by West Brom in 2019, before returning in November when he realised nobody would offer him a job. Yeah, he only played 3 times, so clearly not as good a spell as the first one. West Ham, Darren Randolph, before 5 out of 10, after 2 out of 10. I really don't know why Darren Randolph returned to West Ham. The reason he quit them in 2017 it was to get first team football. Now he's back at the club, only played twice last season and is now continuing to rot on the bench. Just why Randolph? Wolves, Benicaphobe, before 7 out of 10, after 5 out of 10. Okay, another case where the first spell was better than the second. In his first season and a half at Wolves, Benicaphobe scored 23 goals in 48 championship games before being sold to Bournemouth. Then he returns in 2017 on loan, scored 6 in 16 games, helps them to promotion, and then gets signed on a permanent basis, and then immediately sold to Stoke the next day. What a weird way to treat a new signing. Anyway, that's it, guys. Let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and as always, I'll talk to you in a while.